questions as we're going along as well. So if anybody's online and would like to do that, then that'd be fantastic. So we will start things off with our incident commander, Brian Labushinsky. Brian?
Good morning, everyone. So as mentioned, I'm Brian Labushinsky, incident commander for the Alberta Incident Management Team. We were brought in to manage the Arrow Lake Wildfire Complex. We took official command on July 24th. And the complex does encompass the Octopus Creek wildfire, Michaud Creek wildfire, and the Renata Creek wildfire. So we're managing all three wildfires, all three fires within that complex. So I just mentioned there that I'm managing the Arrow Lake complex, which encompasses three fires: Octopus, Michaud, and Renata. Current resources on the incident or incidents include our incident management team that came in from Alberta. But we got a grand total of 114 firefighters, 34 pieces of heavy equipment, and 4 helicopters that are assigned to the Arrow Lake Fire Complex. Additional aircraft are available as requested and as they become available for supporting the incident we have at hand. At Octopus, we got 48 firefighters and 9 heavy pieces of heavy equipment working. And like I mentioned here earlier, aircraft are assigned as required. Additional resources are on order, and stuff has been rolling in daily as resources become available and resource requests come filled. I'm going to stand up here to show some of the work, so I'll just talk. Talk extra loud to get that accomplished, just to show where we got resources at and some of the planned operations here. So, of course, the community is to the north here, so we are focusing our efforts on the north side of the fire. Heavy equipment containment line has been put in off the lake, up the access road that leads to Apple Grove, and then shoots onto the north side of the fire. So that's heavy equipment that has put in guard, and then we're following up with manpower as well. So we got a couple of large 20-person unit crews that have been focusing in that area. We also got heavy equipment on the power line that runs through the middle of the fire there, the Coke Creek drainage, I think they call it. And we're tying into some access points there to reduce that fire does pick up in intensity, to slow it down by some of those containment areas there as well. Last night, with that constructed guard and manpower in the area, we started doing late at night. It went to the wee hours of the morning. A bit of a burnout operation just to clean up this bay in here, to bring a nice straight line in a controlled fashion under our terms and conditions, right? So they started that last night, past midnight it went into, and I got resources on site there right now looking to see if any more cleanup does have to be done in that area. So we're focusing at the moment. We've got equipment here working this end, and the next priority is going to be, one of our struggles here that we've been encountering is, of course, is the smoky conditions and trying to get aircraft in the air just to do some of these assessments and stuff, right? But we're doing the best we can when conditions allow to start doing some of these assessments. And our plan is to start now looking into the south there, where we can move heavy equipment and open up some guard in that area. So that is the map perimeter that is provided updated daily. We're updating that perimeter utilizing both satellite imagery, and as we get data in from the line with folks that are GPSing the perimeter as they are out and about, either flying or by the ground. So that shows the whole outline of the fire perimeter. The fire does burn differently.
In the toothpaste
or you just get a surface burn, right, with still green vegetation up on, right? So, but at least it shows you the full area of the fire perimeter there. As mentioned, we got air tankers available in Castlegar and other areas to support us, but the struggle has been in smoking conditions. We have targets that we want to work with rotary wing, and as conditions allow, to give us some better visibility, we will be focused on bringing air tankers and further rotary wing support for getting some more of your water. I think you folks have seen here daily what we've been challenged with the smoky conditions. So
He's not talking into the mic. He's turning his head, looking at the crowd. He's looking at a map. He's trying to point things out.
Edgewood, Data, and Apple Grove. So, you know, it was scattered about the whole fire complex, and working on. So that's the update of the fire. What we're doing, we're out there daily. You know, manpower is deployed, utilizing tons of heavy equipment, and you know, we're, you know, as conditions allow, get aircraft in the air, but it's the struggle with the smoky conditions. So.
Yeah, we have a question right here. Go ahead, sir. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know whether the fires on the north fire has advanced as far as kilometer 11?
Well, I didn't think I'd hear it.
Yeah, we'll repeat all the questions so everybody can hear them.
So the question was how far they advanced on kilometer 11. So this is the exact perimeter that I have. I don't know where exactly kilometer 11 is on the map there, but that's the exact perimeter. If you want to have a closer look and have a look there. So this data is from, today's the 29th. I think it was the night of the 27th. And then my folks are working as we speak from data collected yesterday to update the latest and greatest map.
Hey, Margaret. Yeah, so we heard last night from someone who was working with wildfires and Apple Grove that all the residences on Apple Grove north of 11 are safe. So they've been protected, yeah.
Okay.
But
New technology.
Okay. If you want to come closer to the map afterwards, we can chat and show me exactly right. So.
We just want to make sure everyone understands that the perimeter, right? Fire burns very erratically. It may or may not have effect, especially if you had structure protection. Part of your property that would have really helped. And if there was some confusion, when you see these perimeters, keep in mind that not everything inside that perimeter is either effective. Okay, just so you guys all understand, it's just a general perimeter.
I have a question here online, Brian. Castlegar Airport has been under smoke, and some situation there with some pollution with the pulp mill unlikely to improve. So Fauquier will continue to have the no-go with regard to air support. Why can't Vernon Airport be utilized for some of the air support?
Well, the smoky conditions is actually affecting where we need them to work, right? So, you know, Castlegar might be clear there, but you know, we're smoked out at the actual fire where we need to be working. We're working the aviation assets.
Yeah, you're not getting bombers because we're at town. Plain and simple. You're not Kelowna.
I'll just repeat that question first, Dave. So the question was obviously with regards to resources, can we move them to different airports so that when it is clear, be able to be utilized as opposed to the current situation where it's smoky in Castlegar and clear up here?
So we. It's gonna be a long half hour listening to this bullshit. Fucking technology. Or you don't have enough microphones in there. One microphone's about that big. It actually wasn't that bad.
But I can say we are reevaluating that on a daily basis, and where there's opportunity to move the scooping aircraft and large air tankers, we'll do that. We have those opportunities to be able to do that. Yeah.
What are we gonna do, Mom and Dad, for a whole fucking day?
Well, I don't know. Hey, go for a walk.
Yep, go ahead, ma'am.
Just curious what happened.
I wonder if they keep the truck till next week.
The question
In
is,
that
what
case,
happens if the visibility stays poor for an extended period of time?
Well, for the actual incidents here, we're gonna still be hitting it with heavy equipment and ground resources here. And, hopefully, you get some through the day, because we've got aviation assets. We got two helibases here at the actual fires that, if they can get into there, wait for it to clear out a bit and then get it in the air. So we're keeping resources close by.
Sir.
Hearing you talk about burn. We've got the stats on the bonds, our runway here in the cusp, this long as I think it's station in the media, our alley is clear. They fly.
The question is Nakasp an option for air support to land and be here?
The only problem with that is when we do go to make those moves, there's a.
That would make all the sense in the world. You bring in a fuel tanker,
Especially looking
with the hose like this, and
Mute
they
your
can fill up.
phones. Mute your phones.
All of that is looking at
The
with
weather
conditions that we're having here right now.
It's not normal. I can
Honestly, this is not normal.
They don't have fuel there. You fucking bring a truck full of it.
For sitting for that length of period of time, definitely not what we want to do.
And it's
Hope that we can get some of this grow with those weather conditions here that we be able to see over the next
a few days.
days and get some success in there to be able
Bring
to
in, use the super aircraft.
If I could just follow up on one on aircraft. The helicopter down there, you have one pilot in the top. Where does it go to fuel up?
Question is, where does the helicopter that is working on Octopus go to fuel up?
We got right on the Michaud side, we got a fuel truck sitting right there to refuel. And then there's the fuel here in the cusp as well. Yeah, I can.
I have a question online here. How come helicopters can fly, but why not have them carry water buckets? I'm assuming they're seeing some helicopters that have been flying around with the water.
Edge with there. No, we got stuff close by. Yeah. So what was the other question?
Yeah, sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. But the question was with regards to, I guess, somebody has seen some helicopters flying around without water buckets. So they're asking why not have them have water buckets?
So there could be other personnel on board. So it could be another single resource or a crew on there that are headed out that way. So you won't see the bucket on underneath, or that aircraft could be repositioning closer to the fire, hooking up the bucket and then going from there. So, but when bucketing operations are occurring, the bucket will be on.
Yes, sir, at the back here.
I just wanted to get some kind of an idea of what do you think is actually the threat at the moment by spotting or.
Yeah, they need a mic for the people that want to ask questions.
Yeah, but he does say,
Yeah, I know. What the question was.
Just repeat the question. What is the current threat to Fauquier, and what is the potential of it turning badly?
So, my concern right now, like I told, we do have guards on the north side there. I just want to have manpower reinforcing those guards and cleaning up the line, right? So, you know, there hasn't been significant runs since those last wind events. Like, you know, some of this stuff was wind driven with that weather system that was here. You know, you see, if you get some of those northerly winds, you know, you see a lot of those red spots that are, if you follow any of the satellite imagery there, right? But, you know, my concern right now, if it breaches any of the lines right now.
Follow-up question, you mentioned problems. So let me see if I get this right.
So we didn't answer that question. What's the status of Fauquier?
Smoke,
Didn't answer
don't
that.
have because there's no wind. What would you rather have? That makes like helicopters or wind pushing the fire?
I'd rather have no wind and something that clears the air out, some venting there, so we can get aviation assets further into the air, right? So you know, we have been flying helicopters. We do have a heavy helicopter here. You know, we utilize it when we can fly. You know, helicopters can fly in less visibility compared to the air tankers, though. The air tankers need, you know, 4 or 5 miles visibility, right? So, you know, that's a struggle with getting some of the air tankers up in the air.
Question at the back, sir. Just a question with regards to the helicopters and seeing them take off with just minimal personnel. Why not have more? And have a bag with it, sorry.
Like the bucket, you
The
mean?
water bucket.
So the person could be on, so the way we have our structure, we got people assigned to that fire. So I'll use, you know, Michaud or Octopus. You know, there's a division supervisor that is overseeing one of the fires. So that division supervisor could be the one that's going to get a further assessment of what's going out there. Are you talking like the bucket?
Yes.
Well, in Alberta, you cannot fly, and I'm not sure about BC here, you cannot fly with people on board with a bucket on. I'm speaking for my policies in Alberta, it could only be the pilot on board during bucketing operations.
Tell that chopper can go up and down 50 times a day, not take it back with.
But there might be.
Several times with just 2 people. Why not take one
They're
person?
not even trying.
Put that back into the boat.
So this way, the living around there will be horrible. No, the trees all burned black.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you ain't getting nothing for it. You couldn't give it away.
And we'll let Dave have a.
Depending on which kind of helicopter they use. And then not all the helicopters that we have are necessarily involved in the bucketing operations. They're there to provide. And taking the operations folks out onto the site so that we can have a good look and help them with their planning processes here for dealing with the incident. In a number of cases on large helicopters, depending on the distance that you have to fly, the value is not carrying that bucket underneath that helicopter because of the draft.
So
They will fly, go to a location they already have set up.
and quickly.
They pull that bucket out along with its long line, hook it on, and then get it.
I'll just add to that. So, you know, we have quite a bit of heavy equipment out there as well. And, you know, we're trying to get our heavy equipment coordinators out there doing some line scouting as well. So that would be, you know, another individual just going in the machine with the pilot, go do some scouting and then moving the equipment to the appropriate area to start line construction. So
Just repeat the question. Sorry, Brian, if you don't mind.
Sorry,
Yeah, the question was if there were more helicopters, would this be an issue?
Well, we got what do we got here? The four assigned, and you know, there's more available, but you know, it's safety first, especially in these smoky conditions, right? That, you know, you get more up there in these conditions, you know, you're kind of getting to a bit of a congested airspace as well, right? So, but you know, we are flying when we can with the assets that we have.
I have a question online here. I'll just ask quickly. Is the electricity still running in houses in Fauquier and properties on the Apple Grove Road?
I do not have that information.
Of course not.
And crowd saying yes. Yes, ma'am.
You think he'd know if there was power or not? Well, we didn't trust that freezer. Now it's time to get a new one.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the whole area is access restricted. I just wanted to see some
That sounds like
timelines
Linda.
with this weather that's calm, no strong winds in the forecast, when people can actually go back home and grab some stuff or feed their chickens and look after their cats and whatever. Put some water on the land and then get out again. I mean, it's not that they want to stay there for days and days. 2 hours, 10 acres down the way. There's no immediate fire danger. Why you have to get there? We wouldn't disturb anybody. We just go there. We would actually help because we would put water on the land. We have to attend our education. So I just want to have a timeline when you think that we get some answers that we can actually trust.
Again, I'm Chris from the RDCK, and so I'll just speak a bit to that temporary access permit, and then I'll be able to turn it back over to Wildfire to talk about why they might say no to access on a given day, largely, I'm guessing, based on tactics that burnout operations they were doing is probably associated with that, but I'll let them speak to that. For the temporary access permit, we do have it in place. Thank you for going through the process. And the primary goal with that is, one, to ensure people are safe, and two, ensure security of the area. So the RCMP has been doing a really great job working with those people that are at the checkpoints and working through that temporary access permit to, if safe, and that's based on what BC Wildfire says, whether it's an Alberta team or not, the firefighters, the professionals, what they say. Based on that, we let people in or not. And when you go in, you are chaperoned, for lack of a better word, by RCMP, and make sure that you go just to your place, that it's set up, and they're providing that same amount of security throughout that area. So as far as the security issue, we expend a number of resources to be able to support that. So the temporary access permit is very much a short-term access to your home to go in, feed your chickens, those critical things like that, and then come back out. However, understanding that the primary issue and the reason that you're on evacuation order is risk from the wildfire. So we leave that ultimate go, no go, as we call it, to BC Wildfire Service. I can tell you as an example on the Trozo fire in the Slocan Valley right now, the last 2 days, they've had a no-go for those people asking for temporary access because of the operations that they're doing right around the houses there. They just don't want to have the added complexity of having people in their homes while they're trying to do these more technical operations. So
It's not the process of removal.
Okay.
It's the follow-up on this. So will we have to apply again? Will we get notified once we have that? When does it go?
yeah, so the question, the question was, if you get a no-go, if you've applied for a temporary access permit, if you get a no-go, will you have to reapply again? We've been rolling those applications over to the following day. Now, understanding that we try to keep the window open for the lowest fire activity, so lowest risk window. And the RCMP, we want to maintain that security, so they're working to bring people in and out. If that list gets too big, then people that have applied after you may we might have to say, hey, we're kind of full for that day, but the following day we have you in. But yeah, the idea is that your application stays in. And I'll let Wildfire speak to the reason for the no-go for a second.
So we are working closely with RDCK on the permitting side there. Like, it's vetted to them first, and then us that we do our review, right? So if it is a rejection, it's more for your safety. we do have active operations. Like I drove there yesterday, right? You got water trucks up and down the road, heavy equipment. I got manpower that, running hose lays across. Another thing we are doing is we're actually doing some danger tree assessment, because, with fire where it did burn, we are going down the road towards the apple grove there just to get rid of any danger trees to make it safe when we do trigger the opening. For the how far down Apple Grove, how far did I go, or for the danger tree assessing?
You just said you had been there yesterday.
I turned around before Apple Grove, I turned, I didn't go all the way to the community. I had another area, I had cruising area and stuff, so I wasn't right into the community.
Yes, sir.
I think a lot of people something about this problem. I think part it is something structure loss since the something taken to the structure loss that way, right? And you get after that.
So we got a structure.
I'm just going to repeat the question because it's also a question online. So it's a question with regards to, has there been any structure loss? What is the update with that with regards to potentially any homes or number of homes that have been lost to fire?
So we got a structure protection specialist that are going to the communities. We're waiting for that documentation. And once we receive it, we'll be turning it over to the regional district there on any structure loss. Not at the moment, no.
To be honest, I can't tell you right now today. Our operations section, I think yesterday for Fauquier, we had 4 for Trozo, which is the Valley Fire, and then I think Fauquier we had maybe 3 or 4 as well. So with that being no-go today, those ones would roll over, and then I'm not sure what we've received from NDA. Driving up this morning after operations section that's looking after that.
And I'm just going to stick to the temporary access permit question from online. Somebody's asking why they've not been able to obtain a temporary access permit when residents are allowed to stay in their homes. Are these residents not in harm's way?
That's a great question. This is something that we deal with evacuation orders. We don't put evacuation orders on lightly. I don't think that BC Wildfire Service recommends evacuation orders lightly. We get the impact to the community. We all have homes. We all in the Kootenays here live in wildland urban interface, as it's called, or intermix, meaning that there's forests around us all. So when we go around and evacuate, we try to be as firm and as understanding, ensure that people understand the risk that they're associated with. We do the evacuations, or the RCMP supports us with doing the evacuations under the Emergency Program Act, which is a piece of legislation. We as a local government declare a state of local emergency that allows us to ask people to or tell people to leave their property. Now, when those people elect to not leave their property, there is a denial to evacuate form that goes filled out and involves a lot of personal information. That form gets delivered to us, and also the RCMP will have a copy so that we have an understanding of who's in there. And if anything goes wrong, as I've said at the last information session, it's a starting point. We know who is in the area. If there was any, reports of any type of theft or anything like that. Additionally, and I think that the BC Wildfire Service did a great job yesterday with the release yesterday or the day before, really focusing on people that decide not to leave during an evacuation order. You are very low down on our priority list all of a sudden if you decide not to leave. If there is a large event where wildfires spreading through there, the big challenge for us is now you're expecting first responders to be able to go and rescue you in a heightened risk area and putting their lives at risk. So we really don't appreciate when people do not follow the evacuation order. And yeah, we take that very seriously and we follow up on that as we can.
Question right here in the back. Yeah, go ahead.
Second question is, told there was gonna be some industrial sprinkler, like halo setup on Willow going around the building. What's the status on that?
So yeah, two-part question. The first being, and we'll just start with this. Have you hit the edge of the north part of the fire?
Well, with rotary wings, since I've been here, I've been dealing with smoky conditions every day, so aviation has been limited, right? So, you know, hopefully, you know, we do have action plans in place. You know, if we with targets, you know, if we get windows like, you know, we got those CL-215 sitting in Castlegar, you know, we have, and heavy helicopters, we do have targets. As for the structure protection side of things, there was issues with some of the large water delivery that we had with the contractor. I have to check to see if they fixed their actions or not, but we got you know, other structure protection in place there that is deployed.
So, no, my
So with the aviation side of things, yeah, no, we never had no aviation assets in there, but there's guard construction with heavy equipment. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, we had good success with the burnout operations there late last night.
Yeah, in the back there. Yep. So the first part of that was with regards to the comfort level of the community having a helicopter and bucket available, and obviously the visibility can change depending on certain areas here in the community.
So yeah, with helicopters, if we can get in there, we do have a machine there. I know a machine flew into the community center this morning, but like my ops chief did say, like, you know, we got in there, but then the smoke changes, right? It's pretty fluid there as, you know, we go through the day there, but like we got a machine and they've been landing at the community center there.
And then regards to obviously the long weekend and concern for obviously long ferry lines and more people coming to this area, what is going to be happening with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I've certainly seen the lineups occur both on the Fauquier side and the Edgewood side. I've, you know, sadly been part of them in the past. Thank you. It's a great recommendation on the Fauquier side. That's we work with our CMP and Ministry of Transport to figure out exactly where those checkpoints are and make sure that things are safe. And that's a great recommendation, and we'll have a look at it. Yeah, and MOTI, sorry, the comment was between Cherryville and the cusp. Now with Fauquier not available, there's virtually nothing out of there, and with a recommendation to maybe get people to stay out of there. So MOTI, that is their realm of influence or authority there. They have been messaging that it's for, I've heard local traffic only, and then on Drive BC I saw that it was for through traffic only. Trust me, we would have been happy to have kept it to local traffic only, but the highways definitely want to keep the province flowing, so to speak, and with all the other highways closures around, they wanted to ensure that there were a couple that were open, available to be open.
Just behind you, sir. Sorry, just the one behind you first, then I'll get to you.
Shit.
The question is
There
the
any
powers to potentially limit campers or camping or tourists from coming into this area and keeping it in a restricted area. And then removing the people who've already come in.
So BC Wildfire Service doesn't necessarily have much power to
You're
do these three.
in
Hey,
the
that's some place. I didn't.
Here in the front country. To be honest, I'm not sure why. You'd want to come and sit in the sun.
Yeah, you're at.
So
Look at
that's
that.
with the province on those decisions of what they're going to do.
So the question was which provincial department looks after that. That's Solicitor General of Public Safety, Minister Farnworth. They have the state of emergency in place. It's through those powers that they would be able to affect some of that limitation. And so that would be the route to discuss that or bring that up. As a local government, we have the Emergency Program Act that accords us certain powers under a state of local emergency, but those ultimately all have to be approved by the minister. So Minister Farnworth in this case. And I can tell you that the idea of shutting down areas and essentially moving tourists or shutting down areas to tourism is not in the realm of local government. That would be a provincial item.
Who, in my opinion,
Put Travis Dope away.
near enough credit. What they've done. We assure everyone, last night, this morning, things were looking good. Things really changed down there, and he did want me to ask you, tell everybody about the control burn schedule for today. Will you be completed, how and about the heat? He's not going to be there's going to be some meetings that's going in today.
So the question is, can you tell us about the control burn schedule for today?
So that is the one that we started last night there, and operations is out there to see how far it moved from the control lines, and if there's any further cleanup. Like I mentioned earlier, we want to clean that, I'll call it like that bowl area there to bring it to the machine guard. So if there's anything outstanding that was not burned last night, they're assessing today to see if it more can be undertaken.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Yep. Yep.
Question for, with the traffic and all that. Right now, as far as I understand, the bush is not closed. I came down for this meeting today, and I saw trailer after trailer load cars and motorcycles from outside the area. Why don't you close the bush? Because those people are heading into the bush. They might cause some fire. We already have fires down in Fauquier with that. We don't need to go on.
The question is, why doesn't the province close the bush?
At this point, and covering off with those in those areas. There's a number of factors that have to that, and what's been experienced so far have not been people heading out into the bush to go and do their recreating. Most of that we've been
Long weekend. We are the next place in mind for fire. We have ample backcountry roads. We see quads, motorbikes going off on back roads. pulled out voluntarily a week ago because of danger. I emailed and spoke to Ian Mayer, your executive director. I got the typical political answer about we have to take in all these factors, the tourism and that. You know what? I don't think the tourists will complain one bit. Backcountry stays so they can enjoy it next year. And then follow up sentence by him saying, every person in this village needs to do their part to help protect, to help everything, you know, before I, etc. My question back to him was, and applies to you, sir. Why are you being reactive instead of proactive? In 2003, we went through this the same thing when Ingersoll went up when it never should have burned. It never should have been allowed to get away. We're asking you to be proactive. Do it before something else starts stretching your resources even thinner. Our lakes make it closed. You have the power.
I'm just gonna, before I get to you, man, I'm just gonna get a couple other people that were either, yes, go ahead. Yep, yep. The question is the IMT team working closely with the local Fauquier volunteer department?
So we got structure protection down there, and I believe the locals are involved there. And there's other community departments and contractors assisting with structure protection.
Yes, go ahead. Oh, sorry, 1 second. The question is it appropriate to have a backburn without appropriate aerial support?
So last night the conditions were good, allowing it was feeding it back into each other. Manpower was on site, so it didn't need aerial support. Operations will look today if conditions allow for the burn to go ahead. They're assessing the situation right now. I haven't heard it if they began or nothing, but yes, aerial assets are taken into account for supporting any operations there. I'm gonna wait for my ops chief to see what the conditions are on site, how successful we were last night. We're burned into, right, and how much territory is left to be done, and if it's safe to do so, can we get aerial assets out there? It comes down to the site specific. If we got a bigger black line already from success last night, there's less chance of spotting and all that occurring, right? So. Potentially, yes, correct, yeah.
So then my next question.
Hold on, I'm just gonna go to somebody else here. I just want to get to a bunch of people. We'll get back to you. Sorry, go ahead, sir. Yep.
When is the timeline, or what is the predicted time? You're currently saying that some of your moving it towards.
Well, that's, I can tell you right now, that is top of my priority to, going from an order to an alert. We just want to clean up this area, that it's all the lower area that leads into the community there is taken care of. I got manpower in there. It's secured a great distance. And then, we'll be looking, at that change. An exact date I can't give you, but in the end, sooner rather than later, right? So is my goal for you folks.
Just going to the back here for a question. Yep, go ahead. Can you put a pump out at the lake?
Yeah, we got a lot of equipment deployed already and pumping as we speak, right? So, crews are utilizing water delivery with pumps and hose already. Most of the heavy equipment I got there is all local contractors that were utilizing them and their expertise for the area.
I got this young girl right up here. How many hectares is the fire?
Octopus Creek, the last update was 16,930, and then it'll be updated later today once we get our latest data done by our mapping section.
Yep, go ahead.
It's like to create work. To get 100-hectare fire, let her burn.
Yeah.
1,000 hectare, maybe we'll look at it.
Yeah.
No, it's 16,000 hectares. What a waste of fucking trees and land. For something that could have been put out in 100.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're government, so they get away with it. If it was a contractor or somebody, fuck, you'd be out of business.
So why were the area salt equipment not deployed to the steep terrain fires?
The question is, why was the aerial support not sent to the steep terrain early on?
So at the time this fire actually started in here, it's Octopus Creek.
No, the big guns are all lounging in Soyuz right now with their depleted fucking planes.
There was a risk for safety for the crews. And really our focus is turning around.
They can't. That's what the fire did. That's out of the southeast.
Yeah, but the planes get assigned where they're told to.
But this one,
Yeah, but there's so many for fires.
suddenly with the wind conditions. that
Does
it
anybody know how close the
ended
fire
up
actually is to Fauquier?
growing substantially to where we ended up with the now. Priorities around those fires and looking for success within those for dealing on those fires and the large ones that we had. We were putting those into ones that were close to communities and making sure that we get initial attacks. We have a number of fires within the Southeast Fire Center that actually are sitting at MR swamp, and they haven't had any action on them other than simply going up and going up.
And Jimmy said he never seen a fire near
Some of them
down
have moved, and some have
80 fucking years.
but the intent here was to focus our entities and time and. Well, certainly when you have steep terrain fires and our initial attack capabilities, and the aircraft that came out at the time, they can go and look and see, deciding on where the best value is at, and if it's beyond resources, or using the aerial assets, in this case, is the air tankers, to go in and attack on those sites and provide downward target. In some of those cases, the value of going and doing that isn't as much in those steep terrain, high altitude, inaccessible areas, as opposed to dealing with other sites very closer to communities and so-called inland. So that's where the focus is.
There's a question from somebody at the back there. Yeah, go ahead. Question was, when are we going to go home?
Like I mentioned earlier, we're focused on that north side. We want to get it secured, and my goal is sooner rather than later, right? Hard to put an exact date on it, right? But hopefully soon.
In 2003, the wind was over going from the house, fire of the house. We had a meeting of 3-4 ATVs, drove past our gate, a couple of them showing lighted signals, trying to dare us. We called a meeting at the Fauquier Hall. I described the situation, and everybody in the hall decided to close the road and ask for volunteers to man the areas. Me and my wife did. We put signs up in Fauquier and several places up to kilometers, a little past 12 with our gate. Then first built a wood mostly. Then Eric was, and they said, you have no lines. And I said,
there's something like civil disobedience. And if it comes to saving our lives and our places, I stand there and do that myself. I'm not waiting for the police or anybody. And then the next people phone me was the RCMP. I hear you close the highway. It's not a highway, it's a better skid train up the road. It's a highway. I said, no. But anyway, you might use those criminal building for closing a highway. I said, I'm not closing a highway, I'm not taking down our barrier. I come up and arrest you. I said, please do, if you can find me. I was with the RCMP guy for half an hour on the phone. He tried to persuade me to close the road. I was walking back in my place. The last thing is that I'm coming up now. And I put the phone on. He never came. The next morning, he went down to the store to security and said, I hear you have the visit from the RCMP. They had heard from all the way. RCMP. They didn't take down one sign. They didn't remove our barrier, which was half closed only the road, just in case somebody. It was just a couple of hours with a 2x4. I mean, 16x4. So I wanted to give the gentleman before push it. The answer is civil disobedience. You have to do it if it's going to your life.
Okay, question at the back here. Yes, sir.
Well, I know you can't give us the exact figures, but is it on the burning out?
Is the fire on the burning out phase?
Well, crews are making good progress. Like I showed on the map there earlier, how we're coming up the lake on that machine guard. They're going in a couple 100 feet actually and doing extinguishment. Now we're focused on where that it came down into the bowl there. If we get that cleaned out, brought it to the edge, extinguish that. So progress is being made.
So once we get around this bowl,
It's going to be which? That is correct, yes.
And the fire line, fire gun is both.
Correct. And then, further, you get into some steeper terrain, our heavy equipment folks are looking at where further reinforcement can be done.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on one second. I'm just going to get Brian to just repeat what he said.
Yeah, so I was just talking about heavy equipment will, we're making progress as we come up the slope there on the north end there, crews are delivering water and all that. And our heavy equipment folks, if more guard construction is capable based on the terrain and stuff, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Suggestion for which breaks the map that just shows the parameter of the fire would be overlaid with the guards. Where are the guards in place? And where activity will happen. I mean, even just the guards, so that we know, where things are at. That's just a suggestion so that people know what we are talking about. The other thing is, I have a question. Did you do any backburns in the watershed of Hart Creek?
Did you do any backburns in the watershed of Hart Creek?
No, just the one I spoke about on the north end. So this, yeah.
Yes, ma'am, and then I'll get to you, sir, after. Just. The question is, as residents, is there anything they can do to close the backcountry and stop tourism in the area during this emergency situation?
In this
This particular area on the fire, there is an restriction on supply in that. There's Wildfire cover that off. So anybody that's found back there that's not correct, support for part of the the fire operation.
They would be on the run.
Can we do some more prevention as opposed to letting people into areas that are already tinder dry?
Well, it's previously said
That's what this is. And under those regulations.
for them under the act, so that we don't have control over that.
Letters for us, request and request for help recommendation. Course, not just us. Help. It's safe.
So what's what she says?
So the question was, the question was,
I stopped it. Anything else happened? So why can't you as a group, you've got the power to go to the minister, say, we need it shut. You can recommend that.
Just, yeah, just 1 second. We'll get an answer first.
so from the RDCK's perspective, you know, it's an advocacy thing. Obviously, we don't have the authority we can recommend. As far as your fast track would be to talk to your Director Peterson. And he can bring it up at the board table. And then the discussion happens at the board table and they can submit or take action based on that.
That's just. Can we set up a petition right here at this time that send it to you, you pass it on up?
I can absolutely pass it on up. Yeah, I have very little authority to make any promises after that, but I can pass that up. Absolutely.
In the past, we closed the bush. I've been here and the bush has been closed, no board meeting. How did that happen? Why can't that happen now, here, right now?
The backcountry has,
Happened in the past.
the backcountry has been closed in the past. Why can that not happen now?
Yeah, we don't. But I don't have powers to shut that off. It's certain steps that need to go through to have that done.
Then those steps need to be taken, because we have all been here at times when there were 10 kilometers of people waiting. We're carrying water to them and bringing the kids into the restrooms that were available. We're talking about a major security problem that's going to happen in the next 48 hours. Some people are waiting in line to get on the ferry to decide to go use my house as their restroom. So there needs to be action taken. I don't care what the steps are. The steps need to be taken, because this is the reality of this kind of a weekend. That's what we see. 10 kilometers of vehicles lined up with no water, with no fuel, and no place to use the restroom, and no food, unless they have to go with them.
And you compliance not at that time. Yeah.
Okay, well, yep, no, I appreciate everybody's comments. We're just going to continue to answer questions. Yes, at
They're all facing logistical issues here. Back to the point. Proactively, aerial assault needed to take place early on in the Speed Rain fire. That's the learning here. Who's going to take this message forward?
right here. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Can you just stand up for me, please? So Right, so your question is, is BC Wildfire Service keeping an eye on the Barnes Creek?
I'm assigned the 3, Michaud, Renata, and Octopus, so I don't have no details on that other one.
Just give me 1 second here, about the Barnes Creek. That's the one, further west towards Cherryville? Towards the what, yeah?
Watching.
Okay, stand by. I'll just look it up right now and it'll hopefully tweak my memory, and Wildfire will work on getting that for you.
Yep, go ahead, sir.
Just going back to property, earlier you just said that you weren't sure if there was any structure. But maybe last meeting, they said that there was structure. I mean, the people that don't know their house are stressed with their life. So, I mean, I don't understand. I just don't know if there's anything wrong. People want to know. It's driving them crazy now.
How did they find out?
How do people find out if there's been any loss of structures on the road?
So after this, I'm gonna go to my ops and follow up with structure protection to see what the intel is, and then I'll work closely with the.
Last week they said there was 3 or 4.
Okay.
So I'm getting less information now than you did last week. These people need to know whether their house is.
Yeah, like I said, I just came in here in July. I took command on July 24th, right? So, but yeah, but I'm gonna follow up. Get the. Yep. So I'll follow up with structure protection, and I'll work with the regional district here.
Thanks for coming, by the way. No one said it.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Here to help.
Okay, I'm just gonna go to the back here, then I'll get to you, ma'am. Just 1 second here. Yep. Just obviously a concern with people who are not from the area coming in, and potential for looting in the area for the homes, especially that are under an evacuation order.
Yeah, great question, and something that we the RDCK, are obviously very concerned with, and have taken significant action to try and stop. So the system that's set up is supported by RCMP, as you mentioned. RCMP resources throughout the province are stretched. There's a story behind that involves COVID and training, but that's not for me to speak on. Now, the system that we do have set up is an RCMP is available. The checkpoint where, the queuing where the queuing starts, that is outside of the order area. The process for people going through that section is they have a pilot car, and they are guided through the area. There is all driveways are they should be taped off or coned off, and then we do have security that is also roving at the same time through there, as well as security that's placed that has a clean line of sight from the town site of Fauquier itself. With that, there is also a follow-up on license plate numbers of cars that start in the line and how many make it onto the ferry. That's also being documented. So it's not obviously a position that any of us want to be in, having people be out of their homes at all. But on the security side, we are working hard to plug all the holes along there and ensuring that the security resources are there to be able to monitor and count. And then they have the RCMP should there be an issue, and it has worked. We've had the RCMP drive in after people, go and deal with people, as have they also been in the town site for the people that refuse to evacuate, that we're moving around to freely. The RCMP is also being in to deal with them.
Just one. Oh. So the question is, how do you prevent people from getting into the community via the lake?
It's a great question. It's something that we have discussed and are looking into resources to be able to find, to monitor that. That's always going to be a very challenging situation to monitor that amount of shoreline through those amount of hours. Again, the goal, and as I've heard, the top priority of the team is to get you guys back into your home. So let's just hope that the crews on the ground, putting the water on the fire and doing the work are able to get that dealt with.
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Yeah, people who are out in this area have access despite security. So again, the urgency is you cannot possibly, you have on the ground, monitor access that you are right now. It's not possible. The only way to prevent them looting or prevent them getting in there on is to close the area. There is no way, and it's just like the security people are around on the lake, and we're talking about trying to get people able to get resources in the air, and yet we're going to have tourists on the lake boating and fishing. I mean, this is absurd in an emergency situation. There is absolutely no. We've only got 48 hours before it starts.
yes, go ahead, ma'am.
What is name? I understand how to look at the name. Is to directly contact members that have lost structure. And making sure, so he has contacted the people that have lost structures and be sure there is somebody, they are looking out for that. They're not trying to keep people in the dark if they lost structures. There is a professional that is taking that as a priority. Yes, we have people who lost structures or homes. So if you are to lose a structure or a home, you will get contacted. It's not a secret that the fire is trying to keep. There is, know that there is a priority to contact people that have lost structures.
Just I'll just repeat that, just a comment for people online that there is somebody that is contacting anybody that potentially had lost structure due to the wildfire. Yes, sir.
You guys said that we updated the restricted area of the last something. Set up the authority to increase that restriction.
Does BC Wildfire Service or RDCK have the authority to increase the area restriction to include Highway 6?
I'd have to go back and look at the area that we've got in there, but there is probably some opportunity that we could go farther up that road. We tried to make those boundaries as clear and to fit within where the fire activities and fire operations are, so we can keep it specific into those.
Are you asking specifically if they include the ferry into the restricted area? Yeah, is that? Yeah, okay. So the question is, can we include the ferry in the restricted area?
Yeah, the restricted areas, typically we deal with those is in areas that are specific to the fire and related to fire operations. I haven't seen anything where we've gone past those options, trying to include other operators and other actions that are within there.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have lived on Apple Grove for 37 years. before we closed it the third time, it was closed twice before. And she never was as bad and dangerous the situation is now. And absolutely, you have to get to Victoria and tell them they have to close it. Otherwise.
Obviously a concern for property and, yep, go ahead.
I wanted to add to what I said before. After we closed the bush and fire was gone, then 2-3 months later, Bill Hilton, one of the foresters, talked to, and he said, you know, they were really glad that you closed the road because they saved us manpower to control that stretch.
Yeah, sir, you had a question there? So the question. So the question is, why was this fire not been able to hit earlier or get after it earlier?
Yeah, in this particular instance, as I understand, this fire was up in inaccessible terrain, unworkable areas that we can get in there, and certainly at risk for safety for crews and that. When those fires do come down and we're dealing with very strong winds, and we had those from over July the 21st to the 23rd, as I understand it, there was gusts there up to 50 kilometers an hour. And certainly trying to deal with that and with those flame fronts, it's very problematic to try and get out and get in front on those fires to try and control that. That's firefighter safety is key.
At the back, yeah. Good. So the question was, if obviously the highway and the ferry are not closed right now, why was the ferry and the Highway 6 closed last week and not now?
Great question. So the authority to open the highway lies with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. As a local government, when Edgewood had been evacuated or was evacuating, and Fauquier, the Octopus fire had just had that large wind event on that afternoon, and we were busy evacuating everyone. We were successful in being able to work with our partners at MOTI to have that stretch road closed due to the imminent fire danger. Since then, MOTI, as I mentioned, their efforts are to keep the province moving, so to speak. So with the other closures around, they had expressed desire to reopen the ferry and provide access to through traffic only. Again, I have seen it messaged as local traffic only, but I think we all know how many people use that corridor throughout the summer months, and especially on long weekends. So at the end of the day, MOTI wanted to open the highway, and they asked that we work out our security and checkpoints to ensure that they were in safe locations. That's why you see that nobody's queuing at the ferry terminal like they normally would on the Fauquier side. because that is an order area. So, you know, we said hard no on that. It's got to be outside. So they looked at their traffic plan and set it up where it is now. It's something that I'm certainly going to pass on that, you know, from this meeting to MOTI, who ultimately make those decisions. I've heard it loud and clear, and I really appreciate, you know, it's one of the great things to be out here is to gather all this local knowledge. I can't make any promises that the local government has a whole lot of influence there, but I'll certainly be passing it on and the concerns around the you know, numbers of vehicles and traffic that will be not only passing through there from the security perspective, but queuing there. Like I said, I've certainly seen that. Does that help answer your question? Yep. And I'm sorry, the question was just to follow up on identifying Mr. Conroy as the local MLA as a good contact to work through. I would agree with that. And then just a concern around what I understood was queuing, you know, where the people are queuing for the ferry. And if this fire were to get up and flank over, you have a whole bunch of people on the highway. Absolutely understood. And, you know, it's something that Wildfire would be able to speak to of their feelings on that and their trigger points for that. But great comments. Thanks.
Yep, go ahead, sir.
You guys stop here. That track.
So the question that the question was pertaining to the lineups, largely on the end of the long weekend as people are trying to go back to the Okanagan. And to ensure that only enough people that can fit on the ferry are let through the checkpoint. Yeah, correct. That's what's currently happening. So they aren't letting extra people so that there's no stopping allowed in the order area. So that lineup, so there's the issue of how long that lineup's going to be, 5, 6, 7 sailing waits going down there. I think that we've identified that and we'll pass that on. And just so I'm clear, your concern is more, okay, well, they're just going to let pulses of 22 vehicles, enough that can fit on one boat, go through there. That's correct. That's what they're working with the operators on the ferry. They're in communication to understand that, how many can go through. At Flick Road is where the checkpoint is there, yeah. Yeah, and it's going back, and, you know, again, I'll pass on what I've heard here about the concerns for the long weekend to Ministry of Transportation and see what their traffic plan is for that. Yeah, I just came back on the end of the July long weekend, and I drove onto the ferry on the Edgewood side, and it was back to the 100-kilometer board on the Fauquier side. I was just gobsmacked. Exactly. And yeah, I think the assessment as well that you aren't gonna be able to turn a 26-foot trailer or truck around on that highway anywhere in any kind of quick fashion. So we'll pass all of that on. Thank you.
Ma'am, did you have a question right here? Yep. Mhm. Absolutely.
Provide the ministry if God forbid something happens on Wildfire then ours is the order is you and then I mean, these are things that have to be taken into account given what's going on right now. This is including our
Thanks.
Yep.
I'm really just to give you two days ahead. When the boat and we have says rain, hopefully you've got a better forecast. Are you expecting rain in that forecast? Is it forecast thunderstorms?
Just a question with regards to the forecast for the weather moving over the long weekend.
Yeah, I never attended the weather briefing this morning, but, you know, I know there is some in the forecast. You know, we are going to be monitoring daily and, you know, fingers crossed that, you know, there is precipitation coming. You know, the other scary part of this, you know, if you get thunderstorms, you know, you're going to get lightning too, right? But hopefully these systems, when they do come in, they're wet instead of dry, right? So.
Which, by the way, is doing a great job on that.
Yeah, I think we could probably look at weather information.
Yeah, I'll update the weather. I have the weather and fire behavior forecast. It's just that it's like Groundhog Day every. Most folks realize I do update it. It's just exactly the same, so I apologize for that. But I know that yesterday during the weather briefing, it did mention that there was weather in the fourth, but it's only 10 to 12 from what I understood millimeter, and that would pretty much do not very much to fire conditions, right? So
that's just like it.
But you know, one thing, you know, if you do get you know, weather systems in, you know, you're getting cooler temperatures and higher relative humidities as well, which is a benefit for fighting fire.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead at the back there. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Obviously, you know, we understand there's obviously a concern over the ferry and the long weekend traffic, and yes, we will pass those recommendations on. Yes, ma'am, you have your hand up right here. Yep.
just don't understand why they're letting tourism go on through Highway 6 right now. Why aren't Highway 12 from Sherryville to Nicosia until the I know how much traffic, I know how angry people get that line for hours. Supplying them with water and everything else. We're not there to do that now. Who's going to be supplying the water and the bathroom and the surveillance for over 100 cars? They shouldn't be allowed on this part of the highway at all. Yes.
So again, just obviously a concern and a question as to why the highway cannot be shut down from Cherryville to Nakusp. Obviously with tourist season and coming up to the long weekend, why that cannot happen.
Why? What good is tourism if there's fires everywhere? And how stupid can they be?
I do have a question from online with regards to, and we maybe touched on it at the beginning, but where exactly is the fire situated in relation to the town of Fauquier? Is it up the mountain? Is it on the Willow Loop? Where exactly would it be? I imagine it's somebody from Fauquier. I don't know who the person is. I'm just asking the question that's there.
So as it's displayed on the map is the actual fire perimeter. Carolyn includes it in her her daily update, and the perimeter that we have on the map here is also uploaded to the BC Wildfire app showing the perimeter. So.
See from the weather forecast that we have any storms south in the forecast. How easy is it for the artists to pay wildfire to lift these orders into an alert?
Would it not be easier to lift the evacuation order and change it into an evacuation alert, especially over the long weekend?
So from the RDCK perspective, we are the ones that put the order in place, and we would be the ones that reduce it to an alert. That is all done based on risk assessments that come to us from the professionals with the BC Wildfire Service. So if we hear from the BC Wildfire Service that there is no risk associated with the fire to the community of Fauquier and those houses down south, that'll be something that we will pass on immediately. As an example, we had the information from Edgewood, and I think it was, in our hot little hands about, 15 minutes before we got it out, we were able to craft the information. But I will just reiterate the fact that the order is in place for good reason. It's not taken lightly. The BC Wildfire Service is really great at understanding why it needs to be on, and they're really great at understanding sort of the parameters that they have to see met to remove that risk. And we really appreciate their partnership in that.
Yeah, go ahead. There. Yeah. Yeah.
So the question is, why can people sit in the ferry for 8 hours? They're not sitting in the evacuation order area. We set them up outside of it. So there's no order in place where they're queuing at the time. So we do not let them down in that area.
It's been smoldering. I mean, obviously, the players on the level, they have lots of visibility. Now, I said you guys are you guys not planning on until it's over 3 or there's a lot of stress. We appreciate the compensation. Balance across kind of hotel and campsite, that's not with kids. It is a lot of stress. I just moved back here, literally with my boy. It's a lot of stress and chaos. If we're only doing day-to-day process here, and there is longevity of that fire has to be out. We have weather coming down. It's going to be lightning strikes. There's going to be other fire strikes. We're not going to get rain. In Harrison Park. Listen, it's very not shut. It's very, very hard, and I think it's a real victory. If you guys, pardon me, think of that.
So,
If you're worried about the security map, let us notice, get back to our homes, we do our own due diligence, and we get back to our lives.
so the question is in regards to what are the steps to remove an evacuation order and downgrade it to an evacuation alert? What needs to happen in order for that to happen? Right.
Like I said, there was a lot of opportunities. I was down the tape. I actually watched that one. Like I said, I did watch it multiple times. I do understand that there was some smoke issues. I watched this folder. There was teeny little fingers there, and it was something towards the yellow line. There's more it comes down to steep territory, visibility. I mean, there's lots of times thought that included, and it wasn't, so that's fine. Now we're dealing with the situation. Now we're keeping worried about security. Realistically, people want to be back and take care of their own stuff. So, and in my opinion, like I said, I do appreciate that you guys would take it up to the top. It's not going to happen until the long weekend. I really don't think so. What would happen if, like, is the fire going to go out and never allow back, or is there another allowed?
Does the fire completely have to go out before they're allowed to go back home?
Where I'm coming from, I want that north side secured, you know, where we have the guard and stuff and full with manpower working it. Then that's, after that is when I would make the recommendation of an order to an alert. But I just don't want, I want that line secured. I don't want people going back in something, you get a wind event or whatever the circumstance might be, and then you evacuate it again. I just want to make sure that line is secure, and then that recommendation would be made.
Question is, how long do you think that would take?
I wish I could put a date on it. Like I say, I want sooner rather than later. Folks are under right now as we speak, securing line, right? If we get that burned down to clean that loop up where there's still some green there, right? And we got guard in place, so it's hard to say, sooner rather than later, right? So and that'll be communicated out.
Yes, ma'am.
So the question is, what would happen for those that evacuated if they went back into their homes while the order is still in place? So we do have the temporary access permit process, which you can go in and do those critical things to your home. Correct, yeah. And that's for as much the safety as the other people that have properties down there, to know that people are being escorted. But yeah, so that is the process for you to gain access. We have had people that have tried to go into the evacuation order area, and that is when the RCMP are forwarded the license plate information for those folks. The question is about signing a group temporary access permit and then have the RCMP escort you in. No, the process is in place to ensure that we have the appropriate amount of information. It's a form that you fill out quickly online, or if you don't have access online, you can call the Emergency Operations Center and we'll help you through that. The existing legislation under the Emergency Program Act, yeah, you can. There is authority there given to the RCMP. Sorry?
we know where we are, we have access to satellite imagery. Keep the fire numbers. And it's day too late. I mean, you know, maybe you can say.
Okay, question at the back, ma'am? Yes, ma'am.
Legally. If we do have to go off, we can go back and stay.
Oh, one sec. Sure, please.
We can value the vote, like, no, I'm totally with you guys. Just to go something else, you think about. You go back. You're adding burden on the 85 on who you are, really support. They're not going to ignore you. They're not just going to go, oh, they're there. They know you're there. They're going to do whatever they can help you protect you. You don't want adding burden on the groups that are there. Let them do their job. Let them do it right. Save your property. I appreciate what you're saying. God knows I hope about talking to Matt, I talk to him every day. They're working down there. It is working. They are watching that village. They are monitoring it. He is confident it's going to be okay.
Okay. I just sorry to interrupt everybody. I understand these are outstanding comments, but I just want to try to keep this thing moving. And if everybody's done with their questions, because obviously we have our team that needs to get back to work. So if there's any other questions that we can deal with here at front. Yes, ma'am, right here. In best case scenario, where do you see us in a week from now if nothing changes with regards to the fire?
You know, the crews are making good progress. We're going to see how this, the burn goes, but you know, I think a week is pushing it. I'm hoping a lot sooner. You know, that's my honest opinion. These conditions do change out there. I can't put an exact date, but like I say, sooner rather than later. But I think, you know, a week is stretching it. That's how I feel at the moment.
Yep, go ahead, ma'am. Yep.
That long line on Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, whenever it appears, it's gonna put so much stress on our guys. If the fire jumps the line there, how do you get them out? You got 500 trailers through.
So again, a question with concern over tourists coming in over the long weekend with long trailers, and if there's another emergency situation in terms of getting everybody out, how do we deal with that? Boats on the lake as well, yes.
So the question was, is there some way to notify the tourists, let them know that extended delays, maybe even quantify that with 8 hours or something like that? I think that's a great idea. It's something that I will pass on in my discussion with MOTI. Again, I'm with you. We all get that it's a real bad situation. I wish that things were shut down for that highway Well, that's on it.
Yes, ma'am. The question was, can we move the lineup for the ferry, which is on by Flick Road, move it to a different spot, move it further back, further north?
Yeah, and I already have a note for that one for to move that back, to ask MOTI to move it back. So, yeah, no, and as soon as we can get back to the office, I can start working on my list that I got here. Yep. Good, great recommendation.
At the back, ma'am? Yep.
Sorry, the question.
Yeah, so your question is regards to who is doing, what are we doing to help you in this situation where you've been pushed out of your home at this point in time?
Yeah, so absolutely, and I'm sure that you've talked to our fantastic volunteers that have been working the ESS desk here. Sorry, and so they do have the ability to provide you with benefits. Now, I understand you had a dog you had mentioned that makes it challenging. Okay, so there are, when we get into these situations, it's always difficult to find a place that accepts pets. We do know of a hotel that is in Castlegar. Okay, so the challenge, so if you have a pet and you're evacuated, the challenge, of course, is finding, so there are volunteer organizations which we can follow up with to see what is available there. Typically, I think it is that kennel idea. So if your dog can't be kenneled, and we do have an opportunity, there are some campgrounds that are more local, that would be an opportunity where you can, okay. So, yeah. So then what's going to help is to get you back in your home. And I think that we understand that. And that's what they're working really hard to help out with. Well, they're running the fire itself. So they have that authority. As far as, whether they close down the bush, closing the highway, that's a provincial authority thing. So, the MLA, Katrina Conroy's office is local, comparatively from a provincial perspective. So you can contact them. That's the route to authority there. And you also have Director Peterson, who's your local elected official.
What? So the question is, why would they put in the emergency act order and not close the backcountry?
The provincial state of emergency is being referred to there. Again, I think we've been over the answer to that question. That was the government that are not currently sitting at the table.
The only way we get this done is top of CBC. Get it out.
Okay, well, I think that probably does it for all the questions. Does anybody else have any final questions here? We do definitely appreciate you taking the time. We understand the situation, and it's everybody's goal here, and within both our organizations to try to get everybody as home as soon as possible. But of course, top priority is public safety and your safety and the safety of the people working on this fire. So we appreciate being here. We appreciate your understanding, and we'll do everything in our power here to answer all your questions. And we'll be still lingering around if you have a few more. So thank you very much, everybody. You can come on up. And are we going to do this again next week? Is that your question?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you don't want to see us next week.
You want to be back in your home. So.
Yeah, we want to be back in your home. So
how you doing?
Play it by ear.
That's good.
Can you tell me where the prescribed burn is today?
You can
Look at the map.
So do you have a council?
Yeah,
this one here.
Yeah. There is. I'm not sure if you have a laptop. There is. Yeah. So there is the Wi-Fi that's in this building here.
Email
So
that.
if you go to RDCK, search RDCK temporary access.
So you just email her, say, please
You'll
add me
get
to your
that,
list, and then she'll
you'll be able to fill it out. That's all the information on there.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on the internet. It's right here.